quiet the first one? You're like,
teenagers, young adults, you know, just be, as parents we think just because there's a filter on, everything's good. Well, it's not. And so,
he's giving me a challenge. He's like undoing everything I'm going to tell you. Like, just shut it all down.
I'll sit down. I'll sit down.
So I guess I just want to start with a little bit of my background. I teach social media marketing, so I'm used to teaching like the good side of social media. We use it to build businesses and promote organizations, even churches, right? And then, but you know, I have a daughter in high school, a son in middle school, and a daughter in elementary school. And a while ago, they asked me to do this talk, and I really started researching, delving into the teen use of social media. And so what you know, but then when I started digging into it, I started getting this picture of social media. It's all the devil and evil, and you know, sort of the flip side. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to tell you what I learned, but I also want to have a balance. Like I don't, you know, it's here, it's a reality, and we can't literally shut it all down and take it all away. So I want to try to give you a balanced view of what's out there, what you definitely do not want them near, and what some things are okay if you monitor it appropriately and set up the accounts the right way. Because they're going to have to be using social media in their lives anyway, so it's just become such a part of life. So, what I want to start with this. A couple years ago, this graphic designer put together this graphic of social media, and what he did is he put it into different categories like ratings and reviews, location, media, social networks, music, video sharing, blogs, microblogs, and those are just the categories. And then in each of these, there's different networks. And when you look at it like this, it's like overwhelming, right? It's like, how can we ever manage this, or you know? But what I did is, you don't have to manage all this and look at all this. So I did some research, and I went to find where are teens on social media. What are the most popular networks? And then break it down and look at those. First, I wanted to show you social media usage across the board is now the #1 online activity in the U.S. This is ever, right? So, of our time online, we spend the most on social media, above email, above video, above search, Googling things, games, blogs, everything else. Newspapers, we don't spend much time looking at news. We get it through Facebook now, right? So that's why it's so important. We're spending most of our time online on social networks. And then I went to see specifically what are tweens and teens using. And I pulled 2 different sources. The first source looked at these networks, and these are the top networks. Facebook is #1, and then we have Twitter and Instagram. Tumblr is in 4th, and then Google Plus is over there. But this is over a time period of fall 2012 to fall 2013. What do you notice happening to Facebook over that time, and what was happening to Instagram? They're switching places, right? So, and you'll kind of notice this. There's a pattern. Facebook was popular with kids, but then all us adults went on Facebook, right? And it wasn't cool anymore. So then they jumped to Instagram, and that's what was happening. And now Instagram's going away, and they're jumping to things like Snapchat, right? Because they're getting away from the parents. But it's important for you to follow them. You don't want to be on Instagram. You don't want to be on these things. But if you're a parent of a teen, you have to be there. You have to be there, and you have to follow them. So this was this was Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, and then this was another survey where they found Tumblr to be very popular. Facebook is still popular. Twitter, not so much. Instagram. And Snapchat is kind of a new one. And then there's some scary ones coming after Snapchat that we'll look at in a little bit. So this is what's happening. And this is part of the concern, is social networks. When Facebook started, people went to your desktop computer and you sat at a desk and you logged in and you checked Facebook. And then you logged out and you did other things. Now, most of Facebook activity is on this little thing that you can take anywhere, right? You can take it into private places and, you know, where people can't see what you're looking at. So, and if we look at it, 18 to 34-year-olds, 60% are accessing on mobile devices now. Smartphones, iPods, anything with Wi-Fi. And that's something we need to consider. And, you know, as you get older, that goes down. But definitely that's what the teens are doing. And what do you notice in these pictures that's going on there? Yeah. They're alone together, right? Because it's on this little phone, even in group settings, they're all down on their phones, and that's kind of sad. But 9 out of 10 teenagers have used social media, so it's definitely a part of their lives, and it's something we need to be concerned about. That doesn't mean that teens are happy about it. This was, I thought, you know, well, you know, teens they just love it and they don't think there's any issues with it. But there's this organization called Common Sense Media, and they're an independent nonprofit, and they advocate for media knowledge for parents and children. And I'm going to show you, they have great resources that I pulled from. But they did a survey of 1,013 to 17-year-olds. And in their survey, they found things like this. 41% of teens say they are addicted to their mobile devices. So the teens are on there, but even like 41% are addicted, but they also admit that they're addicted. So that means there's probably more that don't admit it, and that they are addicted. 36% actually said they wish they could go back to a time before Facebook. So they're on here, but it doesn't, you know, they know it's a problem. So that's why we need to talk to them and educate them about these things. Social media emotionally affects teens, particularly when 70% hide online behavior from parents. Again, that's doing things out of sight, or hiding in other ways. And this is something to consider. The 13 and 17-year-olds, they're the first generation to go through their entire teen years with this array of digital devices and platforms. I mean, most of us aren't too old around here. I mean, we grew up with computers and video games, but they're the ones that grew up with the devices that were constantly connected. And think about how just growing up with that around you. I found this teen girl. She wrote an article on the Huffington Post, and she calls herself an affirmation. She has an affirmation addiction. And she's talking about, she was coming out and saying, I'm addicted to social media. And it gives us a lot of insight. I thought I was going to be able to read it. This screen's smaller. My name is Elise, and I am an affirmation addict. Wow, that was hard, but hey, they say first step towards recovery is admitting you have a problem. Okay, let's be honest. An affirmation addict isn't actually a disease, but at this point it should be. And she talks about my entire she talks about her whole life now is about getting likes on her posts and getting hearts and retweets on her pictures. right? And constantly checking to see, like she's like getting her self-worth and affirmation from people sharing and liking what she's writing and the pictures she's sharing. And you know, and so I think sometimes we may think like it's us versus the teens, and they think it's 100% good and they're going to fight us. But a lot of teens know it's a problem and they want help, and we can help them if we talk about it and approach it the right way. These are some other problems. Cyberbullying. This was an unfortunate case. This teen led to teen suicide. She was bullied via social media. So, and the other problem is sharing personal information, right? Photos and videos. 91% of teens have a photo of themselves. 24% have posted videos of themselves. 53% of teens have posted their email addresses. 20% have their cell phone number. They published this publicly. Personal information, 92% have their real name, their interests, their birthday, city or town, their school, relationship status. This is all out there publicly. And then when you get into location-based services, it's like GPS knowing exactly where you are. So you have to know about these things and know how to turn those things off. But then again, there's also this hiding aspect. 26% of teens post fake information on their profile to help protect their privacy. And then here's the, yeah, we go on Twitter and Instagram instead of Facebook because my mom doesn't have that. That tells you, Mom, you've got to get that. Right? So, let's find some balance here. First, let's just break down the different social media and really what they're about. And if you know this already, and just please forgive me, but so let's look at Twitter. Twitter, the big thing about Twitter is it's 140 characters, and you follow people and you post short messages. It was very word-based, but now a lot of images are being shared, and I think they actually came out with Vine, which shares like short videos. It's also owned by Twitter. The thing about Twitter is the tweets are immediate. Like it's live. It's a very live focused network, and a lot of us watch The Voice and we're live tweeting. And if you tweet something, you can remove it. But the thing is, people can always take a screen grab until you remove it. So a lot of times, what happens is, on a spur of a moment, you tweet something, and then you get regrets later. And this could be a teen, like in the heat of a moment, you're upset about something. Even if you go back to delete it later, somebody's already probably taken a screen grab. So you have to think about, before you publish something, when it's out there, and it's probably going to be out there. Someone will have seen it and captured it. Anything you upload on the internet can linger for a long time. That's, even in college, I continue to tell my students, think past today and what you're doing on social media to the HR people who are going to Google you and look at your social networks. They do it. That's what they're doing. So please think past the weekend, right? Now, the good thing about Twitter is you can choose to keep your tweets private and individually approve followers. So my daughter relatively recently joined Twitter, and because a lot of her track and cross-country friends are on Twitter, and they share information about races and tell each other good job and everything. And what she did is she set up a private account, and then she only approves the people that can follow her so they can talk privately. So that's kind of a setting you just have to know. You can set it up that way. And then all your tweets are private. And I have some students in my classes, I require them for class to open a Twitter account and tweet about class. But some of them have they do it privately. And because I follow them, I can see it, but I can't retweet it publicly to other people. It has to remain private. private. So that's a good thing to know about Twitter. You know, and there's a lot of good going on there. You know, there's all the like The Voice and all the things, and there's people who are evangelizing on Twitter. Norm Macdonald was he's a comedian, but he's a Christian, and he was famously evangelizing to people on Twitter. This is the other thing. You just have to know what settings to set up. You can post your location with each tweet. So when you set up an account, you want to make sure you don't have that on. You have to turn off the location services, because that's, yeah, every time you tweet, it shows you where you tweeted from, which would not be good. So parents need to know privacy options differ depending on whether you're tweeting from a mobile device or a computer. Pretty much it's going to be a mobile device today, so you want to turn off location services. And best use for teen users is you don't need a public account, open a private account, and then it can be just like your friends. And if you're a parent, get on Twitter and insist that you're their friend so you can see what they're tweeting about. He probably has all these ways to get around that, but that's a good way to think about it. Now, teens like it because they can follow their favorite celebrities and get updates on them. You know, there's a lot of good, there's bad celebrities out there, but there's good Christian artists on Twitter, and you can get updates about the band and what's going on. And they can tweet those celebrities and hope they get answered. It's a good way to keep up with their friends. They like the short punchiness of it. It's 140 characters. You can kind of communicate live back and forth. That's kind of the appeal of it. The other thing is, Twitter it's less of getting that like button. Like you're just kind of talking and sharing, and it's less of the pressure to get likes like there is on Facebook or Instagram, where you're watching the numbers count up. So that's kind of a positive as well, that teens say they like about it. Now the one thing to be careful is Twitter has a policy against explicit content, but they vary on how much they monitor that. So if you search certain hashtags, there's a possibility of finding pornography. It's not as bad as things like Tumblr, but it's a possibility. But they do have a policy against it, and they should be policing it. I'm told, from what I heard, Instagram is much better at it. On Instagram, they really monitor the porn, like explicit photos, and they take them down. So that is a possibility to be aware of. These are kind of the things you want to set up. If you set up your account, you can you can have display settings set up to hide photos and videos that might contain sensitive content. So if you set it up that way, if you go to see something that has sensitive content, it'll block it and say, we can't show you this to you. Or warning, this post may contain sensitive content, and the same thing for Vine. So if you have the settings set up that way, it won't show up right away, and it will block you from seeing it. Facebook, obviously, everyone is pretty familiar with this. You have to be 13, but the thing is, kids lie about their age to get on an account before they're 13. This one, you really have to understand the privacy settings, because you'll just open an account, and Facebook is notorious for just, hey, you know, everyone wants to share everything. So you have to go in and make sure you're clicking, I want things to be private. And then they're famous for changing their privacy policy a lot of times. And then suddenly all your stuff's public again, and you have to go back and intentionally choose to make the settings private. This is a recent change. They changed it to allow kids 13 to 17 to share their posts publicly rather than only with friends. Previously, they limited the younger kids that they could only post to their friends, but now you can choose to post publicly. But again, that's a setting. You have to intentionally go in and make sure you're not allowing your teen to post publicly. And then we're guilty of this as well. You go on the Facebook and you see how many hours did you spend on there, and it can suck you in. So parents need to know teens must be diligent about setting your privacy controls. Every time Facebook updates features, you must go back and recheck the settings to confirm that you're on the most private settings to keep everything private. Also, Facebook has community guidelines that ban explicit content. So they should be policing explicit content on Facebook. It shouldn't be appearing there. But then people have, there's been debates about what's art and what's pornography, and they've had to show things that are nudity, but are supposedly art. So it's not completely free of that stuff, and you have to be aware of it. Instagram is this is probably one of the most popular ones for teens since they left Facebook. The thing about Instagram was it was a social network that didn't start on a computer. It started on a phone based on taking pictures with your phone and uploading them and making them look nice, and you share them across different platforms. This term specify you have to be 13, and you should not post partially nude or sexually suggestive photos. And from what I've read, they're pretty good at policing that, so that doesn't happen, but they don't prohibit portrayal of violence, swear words, and some other, and drug references and those types of things. You can flag photos for review, so that they can be taken down. Photos are public and may have location information unless the privacy settings are adjusted. Again, look at the privacy settings. Make sure you're not sharing locations. This is one thing to be mindful of. Instagram Direct is where you can send private photos and conversations with someone else directly to other users, which you might not want to be happening. So this is kind of a look at adding the photo map is basically showing your location. You want to make sure that's turned off. One social network that parents aren't on but should be, it's Instagram. Parents may have helped kids set up their Facebook accounts and check privacy settings, but kids probably have set up their own Instagram accounts and have not set everything private. So you want to double check and make sure that's going on. But Instagram's, my son's on Instagram. They're pretty good at monitoring stuff, and if you're in there active with them, we'll get to some scary ones you don't even go near later. Like this one, Tumblr. Tumblr's officially a blog, but it's very photo oriented, very visually oriented, and they kind of just let everything on there. So there's a lot of pornography just flying around on Tumblr. Pretty much you don't want them on Tumblr. It's photos, videos, audio, and there's a lot of mature content on there. And there's some weird things like you can set up Tumblr blogs to private or leave them open to the public. But you have to, it's interesting, you have to, when you set up a first account, it's automatically public. But then to make a private one, you have to set up a different account. And they make it kind of hard to make it private. And then the other scary thing is people can leave anonymous contents, and when people can just talk freely without you knowing who they are, that's when the conversations get really nasty. So that's the other negative thing about Tumblr. Tumblr blogs are a younger demographic than WordPress or Blogger, which are more older people doing more professional blogs. So Tumblr is drawing the younger demographic. So you create your first profile has to be public, viewable by anyone on the internet. If you want full privacy, you have to create a second profile. So they're just kind of putting barriers up against being private. Parents need to know online hangout is hip and creative, but pornographic. There's a lot of that going on. Images and video depictions of violence, drug use, offensive language are very easy to find. Privacy can be guarded, but only through the awkward walk around. So, yeah, Tumblr. Tumblr's not good. Google Plus. The interesting thing about Google Plus is there's a lot of good privacy settings and ways to protect your teen on Google Plus. The problem is it's not popular and they don't want to go there. And there aren't a lot of adults there, but Google keeps trying to make it popular. They're still not giving up on it. But if you can convince the teen to go there and bring their friends, the positives are there's a lot of privacy tweaks and safety guides. You can limit who sees certain posts by circles. So you can set up these distinct circles of my friends or my, people that, maybe people in my school, or you can set up different circles to really keep the content as private as you want. Automatically reminds teens about who may be seeing their posts. So it's not like Facebook that changes the privacy settings and then they kind of make you forget about it. They keep reminding you, hey, you just sent out a public update. Everyone's seeing it, so they're very mindful of reminding them. They have age-appropriate privacy default settings, so they start at keeping it private for the younger kids. They encourage reporting abuse. They block people, remove negative comments. This is one of the more safer social networks, but unfortunately, it's not very popular. Yeah, we'll talk about Google search in a little bit. This is the new one, Snapchat. And I guess if parents jump on Instagram, then they're jumping to Snapchat to get away from the parents' Instagram. Snapchat's very scary because it allows the user to send photos and videos to a select group of friends, but it's gone in 10 seconds. But they're lying because it's not gone. The whole app is built around taking screenshots of stuff before they disappear. And now there's marketing companies on Snapchat where they do a series of posts that add up to a promotion to win something. And the whole point is you're supposed to take screen grabs of it and collect it. So this is this complete lie that they think it's anonymous, and they think it's going to go away, but it doesn't go away. And people take screen grabs and they keep it. So that's the scary thing is teens they think they can say anything because it's going to be deleted, but it really isn't. Teens say they like the app because it's fast and visual, unlike texting. And there are some things, they like it because you can send photos and you can they draw like cute things on top of the photos, and you can kind of communicate back and forth quickly, but it's just not, it's not good. Snapchat's creators intended the fleeting image to be a way for teens to share fun and light moments without the risk of having them to go public. But the thing is, so then you have this false sense you might share more sensitive things, and someone can take a screen grab, and then something more sensitive is going public because you didn't think it was going to go public. That's a scary thing. The other scary thing is, I think unfortunately, some like older men are prowling for younger girls, and that kind of thing is happening through this. So,
Keith, with
Yeah.
Snapchat, how do you follow? Is there any way to follow?
no, that's the other thing. You can't follow. So as a parent, you can't really be monitoring what's going on. So it's really hot for teens right now, and your kids are probably begging you to go on it, but I would not let them. They can hate you for 6 months, and then it'll be a new thing. Because it will be a new thing, like this, Tinder.
I have a question.
Yeah.
With Snapchat, you say you put a picture up there and it's there for 10 seconds and it's gone,
Yes.
but it's not really gone. Where did it go?
Well, the company says it's gone. Like if on Twitter you have a stream and everything you posted is there and it's searchable, you can go back and find it. On Snapchat, if you look at someone's account, there isn't this long list of everything you sent. But people take screen grabs. So if you send me a message, I know it's gone in 10 seconds, I'll take a quick screen grab and then I save it on my phone and I have it. So it's really not gone.
Not only that, you don't know where it is.
But you don't know where it is. It's yeah. And then that can easily be taken and posted on Facebook. It can be posted on Instagram, on other social networks. So you thought you had this, and you may have this your best friend, and you're sharing a private moment with them. But then the next week they get in a fight with you, and they want to embarrass you in front of everyone, and they have that sensitive message, and they can put it out on a different social network because they just captured it from you.
There's also the story that's there for 24 hours.
Yeah. Tinder's not good either.
Have you heard like left swipe, right swipe?
Yeah, that's what this is from. Tinder it's a photo messaging dating app. You browse photos of potential matches within a certain mile radius of your location. So it's GPS focused, and it pulls in Tinder users from like 50-mile radius, and you see their pictures, and you're like, oh, I like this one, I don't like that one, and you're swiping back and forth. I like this one, or I'm going to pass. And then, if you swipe, you like someone, and they liked your photo, then it allows you to start messaging each other. It's a dating app. And then it has this, you can post moments, which are images and messages that exist for 24 hours and then disappear. But again, do they really disappear if someone captured them? Parents need to know Tinder, it can be used by anyone 13 and up. But the app's widespread reputation is a hookup site. Its use of location and lack of privacy settings make it something you don't want your team on. So, yeah. Now Instagram and Twitter and Facebook are looking a lot better. And then we have these. This is a new phenomenon. Anonymous messaging. Now they're coming out with social networks specifically so you can post whatever you want without anyone knowing it's you saying it. And these are really scary. You don't want your kids near these at all. Because there's no accountability. You can trash someone and I mean, I could barely find images that I could show here that didn't have such inappropriate stuff. But you can see it's really taken off, and there's two Whisper and Secret, but the one that really took off recently, that got really popular, is this Yik Yak. And basically, we'll start with that one. And I actually downloaded this one, and I was looking at it. I was walking around campus, and it pulls in. They're like brief Twitter-like comments, and then it pulls in like the closest 500 people. So it's like these are the 500 people that are closest to me, and it's live talking of everyone around me. So I was walking around campus, and it was all these students like talking about, you know, girls in a bad way, and hookups, and their professors, and all the stupid things they're doing, and because it's anonymous, and they can say whatever they want, and you can't trace it back to a specific person. And it's all just nasty, awful talk, because they're hiding behind and how do you say it? Yeah, that. So, and this is so mild compared to most of what I saw. Sorry. So identifies your location, posts messages called yaks to nearby users, and then on top of it, you upvote or downvote what a person said. So now it's even motivating the person to be nastier, so they get an upvote, right? And these developers, you talk to them, they try to defend the value of anonymous commenting. It's free speech and it's crap. It's awful. So you definitely don't want to go here. Message content ranges from simple questions, personal opinions, local information to negative messages aimed at specific people. You can call that girl or guy in your class anything you want because it won't get back to you. Sexually explicit messages, posting about seeking drugs and alcohol. Everything's fair game. They do say you have to be 17, but there's no age verification on the app, so yeah. And that, like I said, I saw on that chart, it's really taken off. It's really popular with college kids now, but it's going back into the high school and younger, and even back into middle school. These are the ones. Secrets speak freely. Social media app designed to let people voice whatever they want, often about sex, drugs, etc., without anyone knowing who said it. Because it's seen as anonymous, you voice all thoughts. Now, and then despite the promise of anonymity, you have to supply your email address and phone number so they can match you with friends. So it's not really, yeah. And this is the other one, Whisper. Whisper it's anonymous, but it's also set up as a confessional. So you're supposed to confess your secret, all the secrets about yourself. So sometimes it's just words, but other times it's a picture and you write over, like your secret confessionals. Often these confessionals are sexual. Sometimes users are trying to meet with other users. Strong language and images are often used in Whisper. The app also encourages private communication. Requires to confirm you're at least 17. Yeah, that's bad. So, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, much better. YouTube, now YouTube, yeah, you find funny videos on YouTube. The thing to be mindful about on YouTube is there are these things, I don't know if you've heard about this, things that go around like, am I pretty or ugly? And these girls put out videos saying this, and then people leave comments underneath. Awful. It's awful. So, yeah, am I pretty or ugly? A recent report by Slate Magazine says there are over 500,000 of those videos. Now the thing is, YouTube, you get a lot of good content on YouTube as well. You can, in Google, set up content filters fairly easily on Google search and YouTube, because YouTube's owned by Google. You have an account.
I tried doing that with YouTube, and it basically was an on and off switch. Would you like to filter content? Yes or no, but there was no password protection to turn it on or off. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's changed, maybe I was on the wrong screen, but there was no password protecting on that little application.
Well, what you can do, yeah, well here it is, I have it. Yeah, you can set up search and your settings to filter. I guess part of that is setting it up, but then having rules in place of, well, you're not allowed to look at the iPad in your room by yourself. It always has to be in the family room with everyone around, kind of thing. But they do have, I did find this as well. There's this Google search engine for kids called Safe Search Kids. And it's what it is, it searches all content on the internet and videos and images and everything, but they're all safe and filtered, put out by Google. I also wanted to point out this resource. This is, what did I Common Sense Media. If you go to Common Sense Media, they have listings for all the different social networks. They give the pros, the cons, why it's good for kids, why it's not good for kids. If a new network comes out and you don't know what it's about or unsure about, they have it here, and they list reviews, and they even give quality reviews. They rate it for learning, sexually explicit content. This site makes it a lot easier to keep up to date on what's going on, and they'll tell you this is what you have to be mindful of, this is what you have to be sure that you set up. The other thing is you can set up on devices specifically, on Android devices or iOS devices, you can set up restrictions that are password protected. If you go under settings to enable restrictions, and then you enter a password, and then you can go through all Safari and YouTube and iTunes, and you can set up to not show explicit content. And then your son or daughter can't turn that off unless they know that passcode to get into restrictions to turn it off.
Or you can just blow away Safari.
Huh?
Or you can just blow away Safari as well.
Oh yeah, or you can take Safari off. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I've been struggling with this all day.
It's just,
Yeah.
So if you were to Google your child's name, would it have or show any of the pictures that they post on all those different apps?
it depends.
Like Facebook isn't searchable through Google, so if you have an account, you're not going to be seeing that content. Now Twitter, there are talks about Twitter that they're going to make Twitter searchable in Google. So that would take all your previous tweets and it's going to put it out on the broad internet, and you will be able to find it. But most of the networks, it is limited inside that network, and you're not seeing social media content in Google unless it's like a blog or something like that.
I did just want to say one thing about Twitter though. I just found out today that an employee of ours had 14,000 hits on his computer already, and it's only the 6th business day. And so my concern, and we've had this with our daughter, is productivity. Like when they're doing schoolwork and studying, I'm interested to see how this generation of teenagers become professional workers in their careers, and how they manage, because they're so accustomed to being face down with their devices that it could jeopardize their future careers.
Yeah, and I think that's something as adults we have to be mindful of. I think a lot of it is just talking about it and talking about the dangers, because those early statistics indicate that teens are aware that it could be a problem too. And it's like anything that can get out of control. If you do it too much, you need to be responsible and set up limitations.
I was just going to add two things. One, for Yik Yak, a lot of schools, I do technology in a school, and a lot of schools, if you're using it, it's blocked by it. So if they're trying to get to the Yik Yak in high school.
Okay.
Another one is one of the newest apps that the kids are looking at is called After School. And it's similar to Yik Yak, but it's more for high school, so they can go in and put that they go to Mechanicsburg High School, and then all the kids will get those similar anonymous Yak, similar to anonymous Yak, and it's called After School. And one of the biggest things you can do is just go through their phone or device and look for those different apps, and then you know if they have them, because they'll have a little icon on the screen.
Yeah, I mean, and set up rules like, well, you can't download an app and set up an account without my approval and those kind of things. Yeah.
Is it true that you can hide apps, that they know ways to hide apps? Isn't there something
In little
called?
you can put them in little folders, and they'll put them like under general, or with the calculator app or something like that.
Oh,
I don't know what that is.
But there's not like a program that they can do to like that they know password and the apps come out or something. No, they just hide them ways like that.
Hide them like that, or they'll when you swipe
Yeah,
over
I
a couple
mean-
screens.
I've heard of apps like that. I haven't seen one.
I've
But I
heard of
have heard of apps like that. I haven't seen one.
Yeah, yeah.
You didn't mention Pinterest at all?
Because Pinterest isn't that popular with teens. Now my daughter's on Pinterest and she loves it, but it didn't show up as being a popular network for teens.
This goes back to something Mike was kind of talking about. If you stifle them so much with their app, are they going to be so much more aggressive in finding ways to get around it?
Sure.
Whereas you kind of need to talk about it
I
and
think
put
that's
out.
why we need to talk about the pros and cons and be honest with the issues out there. I mean,
I was just going to say, in addition to talking, I think it helps a lot because teens, particularly middle school teens, and into high school, don't want to hear what parents say. A lot of parents anyway, there's a select few that will communicate, but I think it's important to use outside sources. Like, be mindful when you're on the news sites, because there's a lot of good articles out there. Read through them. It says about all the bad things, and it talks about the good things, because there are good things with social media, like he said. But use other sources so it's not your voice that they're hearing, that it's other people, and try to find reliable sources to back up what you're saying. So it's not just you preaching to them.
I don't think we can take it completely away, and we can't find enough ways to protect them from everything. They're going to get around it, so it's kind of, we have to just talk about it, and talk honestly about the dangers. Unfortunately, it makes so many bad things easily available. But yeah, I mean, hopefully, some of the bigger mainstream ones, those companies are trying to put in protections. But a lot of these new ones, they're just trying to get up and running and get a quick following and make a big buck, and they don't care about the teens that they're hurting. So those are the ones you have to be on track, keep a track of. So. Yeah.
Keith and I will have our contact information. If you put your name and email on that sign-up sheet. So
yeah, I can send you. And I had other things I didn't get to. I can send you a copy.
We'll try to do some collective work together and have West Shore send it out to you. Put your name and email down. Keith, is there anything else you want to add before? All right. Well, I know we all have to leave. So what if I just close in prayer tonight, please? Lord, tonight's can be overwhelming to talk about these things, to feel the heaviness of them. We can only imagine how much some of this just breaks your heart. And we pray that you just bring wisdom, bring understanding, and your grace to empower us as parents to know how to engage our children, to talk about these things, and that you would be here at West Shore and in our community to be able to empower us to support our children, our teens, in gaining discernment and wisdom, and knowing how to set boundaries and to set limits and to manage this part of their life. So Lord, help us to depend on you to be able to do this, to have wisdom as we talk to our children. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, thank you for coming, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for talking.
Yeah.